Good morning, guys. Well, it's actually afternoon here in Orlando, and I figured I would show you guys. A few of you asked, how do I paint the castles? So I figured I'd go ahead and paint one for you real quick to show you how. Now, the colors I usually use for the background is the blue and titanium white by Liquitex and processed black. Those are my main colors when I do the spooky castle. I also like to add in a little bit of this blue here by Liquitex. These are my favorite paints. I do use De La Rowney as well. I like both. I like to blend both of them. And my white, I always like to be a heavy body acrylic. So it has a nice texture to it. Okay, first things first, I'm going to put our paints on the palette. A little bit of that white. Some of the processed black. I'm almost out of that one, so I need to order some more. And what else? Let me see. Oh, let me shake this up. This is a new tube of the blue. This is a really nice blue. So we're going to put a little bit of that in there. And I think, excuse me, I think what we'll do is add a little bit of the Hooker's green. Sometimes I'll add that to the sea and it creates a nice little colour for the waves, especially if I'm doing the choppy sea waves, which is what I usually do with the castles. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my wash brush. It's 1.5 inches. Wait, no, that's my middle brush. This is 1 inch, this one here. Okay, and I'm going to use this blue first to create the sky. Add a little bit of that white in there. Now, I usually do 2 to 3 coats at least on my paintings. I find the more coats you do, the more vibrant the colours are. You don't have to do that, obviously, but that's what I find. And I like to create bright, happy paintings, guys. That's what I like to do. So we've got the sky right there. Now, for the waves, I'm going to use this brush here. Another wash. Put a little bit of the blue in, a little bit of the green, and just fill in that lower part. So I'm going to use the dark blue, the green, and a little bit of the light blue. Just get that colour down there real good. Tiny bit of the white. Just blend them all in together. A little bit more of that darker blue. I love these 3 colours together with that little bit of white. All right, wait for that to dry for a second. Let me see, do I have something to dry? I've got some paper here. Let's try and speed up that drying process. All right, let's do the second coat for the sky. I may only need 2. We'll see. We'll see how well it lays, this colour. Okay, so I'm using this blue for the sky again. And I'm applying it quite thick. So sometimes you'll only need a couple of coats. It just depends. Add in your titanium white. A little bit more. There we go. There we go. Let's see. I might only need 2. Let's see how that dries. Let's have a look-see. Might only need 2 of those. So I'm going to do another coat for the waves. Grab that darker blue, a little bit of the green, And a tiny bit of the blue, the lighter blue. There we go. I'm not going to go into detail on the waves yet. I'm just literally laying the colour down because I'm going to wait until we put that little castle on there. And then once we do that, I will go into more detail with those waves. Right, there we go. So we want this to dry. Where's my paper? It'll probably be fast if I had a little fan here, actually. But I don't usually work as fast as this. So it just depends. I do like to take my time. That's what I like to do. Okay, am I going to do another coat? That is the question. Uh-oh, you know what? I might have to because there's a little bit of a bleed right there. Okay, so let's do one more coat on that sky. Let's do that. Let's get a little bit of that blue. A tiny bit of that blue. A little bit of that white right there. And a tiny bit more of that blue. Okay. All right, and that's a little bit more up top. It's a little thin. All right, so let's wait for that to dry. The good thing about acrylics is that they dry so fast. Guys, well, that's a good thing and that can be a bad thing. If you're wanting to work on it and then you're like, oops, it's dried already. So that can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing. Okay, so let's do... I need a brush. That's, let's see, size 0. Now this is a size 0 brush, guys, but I trimmed off the bristles. Can you see? So after a brush loses its, let's see, when it starts to get, well, I've already trimmed these ones off. This is what I use for the fine detail. And then when I can't use that anymore, then I trim off the rest, and I use it for things like clouds, foliage, and things like that. So it makes your makes use of all your brushes, even the old ones. The old ones are really good for texture. So don't throw out those brushes. You can reuse them. All right, so now we're going to mix together a little bit of the Hooker's green and the black, processed black. And we are going to do the foliage for the castle. So I just take that paintbrush and I just kind of stipple it. You can use the same technique if you are doing leaves on trees. You can do it for grass or bushes, just anything that has a texture. I do the same thing with my clouds. So that's what I do. Reuse your old brushes, guys. All right, so I'll add a tiny bit, let me see if I have some, cadmium yellow deep. That's what I like to add on top of the green and the black, just to create a little tiny bit of colour in that darkness. Tiny, tiny bit. Hold on a second. Let's see, is that big enough? There we go. And then just stipple it as much as you want. Right, let's see, maybe a little bit more of the dark right there. Let's see. Tiny bit. Right, now a tiny bit of the yellow. And perfect. Right, so let's go ahead and get our smaller wash brush. Our 1/2 inch wash brush, and we are going to get some of that blue, and we're going to get some of that green, and we're going to get some of the lighter blue and go ahead and do those choppy waves. That's what we're going to do. And keep switching between the colours, guys. A little bit of that blue there, because now we're going to work in the detail. So you need a tiny bit of water on that brush. Tiny bit so it glides. And just glide it along and then go into the detail. These are choppy waves. Choppy. Right, so you can just add some more blue in, add a little bit of that green, and a bit more of that white. See how I just glide it along? Glide the brush along. And you can add more detail with the smaller brushes. With a size 0 or small, well, if you're doing miniature, I would use a size 0. But if you're painting on a larger scale, you're going to want you can use a bigger brush, obviously. All right, let's put a little bit more of the blue and the green. A little tiny bit of that light blue. There we go. And some more of the white. I don't know if y'all can hear the aeroplanes, but they are super low today. So I apologise for that. There we go. There we go. All right, get the excess paint off. And while we wait for that to dry, we can work on the castle. Now for the castle, I'm going to use, it's a size 0 brush, but I've trimmed off most of the bristles so I can get a fine detail. See? Now to do the castle, I like to turn it upside down. Guys, I like to get some of the black paint, add a little bit of water in so that it flows more and it's easier to work with. Okay? So let's have a look here. Okay, so let's begin our castle. There we go. And I just do tiny little lines, right? So it forms like the silhouette of a castle. And that's all you're gonna do. You can just make it however you want it. And you can always go in afterwards and add more detail. And you could just leave it as a silhouette, or you could add in the windows. So I might add in some windows on this one just to show you how I do the little windows. So there we go. You're literally just pulling that paintbrush from top to bottom and creating some little lines, and then you have the silhouette of a castle. It's very simple. See? All right, let's turn it around so we can see how much more we need to do. Okay. So we're going to do a little bit more. Let's turn it back around. It hasn't got to be perfect. Just remember that. It hasn't got to be perfect. And then, okay, we're going to wait for that to dry. Okay. Okay, so we're going to do the lights on the castle, the windows. So for that, we're going to use white, and we're going to use some of the cadmium yellow. We're going to mix that together, and we're going to use the same brush. Okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Let me put my glasses on just so I can see this detail here. Now you can do your windows any which way. You can just take your time with it. And if it doesn't go how you want it, you can always go over it. That's a good thing about it. It's very easy. Just paint over it with the acrylic. Wait for it to dry. And then redo it if you're not happy with it. There we go. Oops, take a little bit of that paint off. That's still wet a little bit. So let's see, we have just a little bit more to do. It's very soothing, I'll tell you something, guys. It really is relaxing. I could do this all day. All right, let's have a look. So there's our windows. You see, there's our windows. Sometimes I'll go in even more with the black paint and kind of add even more detail. I won't do that today. But that's what I do sometimes. I'll put more detail in there. So, all right, so now we're going to work on a little bit more detail with the waves. Again, using, look, the same brush, same thin brush. So I'm going to get some of that white, but I'm going to add some water. And let's have a look, hold on. Mix that in a little bit so the water, so the paint is not as thick and it will flow more. And literally, you can just play with this and have fun with it. The waves haven't got to be perfect. There we go. Get that small brush and just kind of play with it. Now you can, if you want to, you can use like a photo for reference. You could do that. And just paint from a photograph if you want to. I just kind of play with it. That's what I do. I just kind of play with it a little bit because I've been painting seascapes for so long and watching the waves and watching the patterns in the waves. I just kind of go with the flow. But if you find it easier, you can do that. You can use a paint. You can use a photo till you get the hang of it. So, but yeah, this is relaxing too. Just painting the little veins in the waves. Let's have a look. There we go. Just take your time. That's all you have to do. There's no right or wrong way, just have fun with it. That's what I like to do, is have fun with it. All right, let me wash my brush real quick. And you can, like, for the castle painting, you can add even more detail if you want to. Sometimes I will put like little ships in the background. Sometimes I'll do lanterns, maybe some wispy witches, something like that. So that's fun too, to do something like that. Or you can just keep it like this, very simple. You can add some birds, you can add some trees. That's the thing about these little miniature fun fantasy paintings. You can add whatever you want to. Whatever you want. Whatever you want to put in there. You could put a moon in there. For the most part, I have little moons up here. Or clouds. Or trees. So, but for today, I'm literally just showing you the basics. How I do a simple castle painting. That's really what I'm doing. There we go. Now I'm going a little faster than I usually paint. But, because when I paint the sea, sometimes it can take me anything up to 40 minutes if I do a lot of detail. So, but right now I'm just kind of simplifying the waves. But yeah, it can. Sometimes I really do go to town on the detail. I really do. Sometimes I have to stop myself, guys. So, but all right, almost there. Make sure you clean your brushes in between. What I might do is paint on a slightly larger scale, so it's easier for you guys to see the detail. That's what I might do in the coming weeks. We're almost done here. Let's keep on gliding. Almost done, guys. Almost there. Last little touches. And let's see, I'm not gonna do seagulls today. We're just gonna leave that like that. And there you have it, guys. That is how I paint my spooky little castles. A simplified version. So until next time, I will be seeing you. Have a great Saturday.